So today, I want to talk about the structure of your research project. And generally, research project is divided into two main parts. The first part of your research project is a research proposal, and the second part is a research report. And at the proposal stage of your research is that you must, as a student, be able to explain and demonstrate that you are able and you have what it takes and you have the resources to conduct that study. Of course, it depends on the topic itself, that is the nature of the study, the nature of the data that you are going to collect, and many other factors. And that is the reason you must prove to your supervisor or your institution that you are able as a student to carry out that study. And there are a lot of things that happen at this stage. And it is also good to note that at this stage is where maybe you have a problem identifying a topic. And if you are not careful as a student, then you may take a lot of time in identifying a topic and trying to prove to your supervisor that actually you are capable and you have what it takes to carry out that study. And if you are not equipped enough, it may take some time. By the time your research is being approved or the proposal is being approved by your supervisor. The key reasons why the proposal stage of your research project is important is number one, is that you must bring in the research problem. The research gap must be stated because what drives the research process or the research study is a problem that you want to solve. It is an issue that you are investigating. So that must be clear from the beginning at the proposal stage. And at the proposal stage also, you must break down your topic into manageable, more specific objectives, because research objectives is where you will be able to come up with your research questions or hypotheses. Remember that your study must be sequential. So from your topic, you break it down into specific objectives. Specific objectives meaning that you have different variables that you want to study. If it is a quantitative study, then variables must be identified from your topic. So when you identify your variables, then you convert them into specific objectives. And now from the objectives, you can be able to draw questions, and that is how you'll be able to create your questionnaire. Because at the end of the day, you have to prove to the supervisor that you are able to collect data. And the data that you are collecting is going to be relied upon. Remember, it is also important to note that data is very key. And if you get it wrong in terms of identifying your topic, and then you will be wrong in your objectives, and this means that the data that you are going to collect is not going to be reliable, and your project is going to be full of errors, and your proposal may run the risk of being rejected by your supervisor or your learning institution. Another key aspect of your research proposal is a literature review, the review of literature. This means that you have to go through, you must study, you must read the previous studies that have been done before that is related to your topic. So you must be able to look at them. And in fact, this is where you get your research problem or your research gap. For example, maybe you want to carry out a study within Nairobi County, and yes, there are other existing studies that have been done in this country about that topic that you have selected, but they have not been done in that region that you want to carry out that study. That is a gap on its own. That is a gap that you need to fill, meaning that you need to carry out that study in that region. So you will be able to identify that research gap only after reviewing the existing literature. And that's why chapter 2 of your research proposal is a review of literature. So after reviewing literature, you will be able to identify a problem or a research gap. That problem, you must state it at the problem statement section of your proposal. So this means that you must do literature review. The first thing that you need to do is to review the literature. Even before you identify a topic, before you do anything, is that you must review literature. And in your process of, or after reviewing your literature, that is where you get an idea of having your topic or identifying an area that you are going to pick your topic from. The last key section of your research proposal, of course, is the research methodology. The methodology part of your research is chapter 3. That is where you explain the overall approach of your study. Number one is that the design of your study, whether your study is going to be qualitative or quantitative. You justify, you explain to the supervisor why you chose quantitative study instead of qualitative study. You also explain the target population, what is the specific target population, what is the selection criteria, for example. You also explain the sample size, how you will determine the sample size, because from the population is that you may not be able to collect data from the entire population because of many factors, including issues of cost, issues of time, it is too cumbersome, and many other factors there that you may consider. You want to pick a representative of the population. Maybe you want to undertake a study about the quality of education, the basic education in this country. So the primary data collection centers will be, say, primary schools or secondary schools. So maybe you want to concentrate on secondary schools. So we have thousands of secondary schools in this country, and you may not be able, it may not be possible for you to collect data from each and every secondary school in this country. And you may want to select a representative, a few schools that may represent or that may give you data that you will be able to generalize to the population, meaning that the information that you're going to get from those schools that you have picked, then they will represent the whole population. So, in summary, your research proposal must have three key sections. It must have chapter 1, introduction, chapter 2, literature review, and chapter 3, the methodology section. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the second part of your research project. That is the research report. Remember that you are going to write the second section of your research project after you have collected data.